friends, hi YouTubers. I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to make this blog about trauma and autism and what it kind of looks like. I have my 10-year-old son who is nonverbal autistic. For any of you who have not watched any of my other vlogs, about 2.5 years ago, Romeo was assaulted by a professional person. I won't go into details about names or places just for legal liabilities. Romeo got a black eye. Got kicked, Romeo got sat on, Romeo got grabbed by the face. Just a lot of things that kids or anybody in general should not be exposed to. It was a very unfortunate circumstance. It's something that should have never happened. So I just tell people, and unfortunately I was not aware of the situation right away. Was not told. It was kind of things were popping up signs, so I just want to advise parents, now that your kids are around other people more with being in school, after school activities, groups, just keep an eye on your children. My son, who's nonverbal, obviously was not or never would have been able to tell me what happened to him. So I keep it advised that, watch out for your kids. You know your kids so well. You know what their behaviors, their characteristics look like. If anything is changing, even a little bit, just jot it down, keep an eye on it. Romeo changed right away. Within the third day of him being assaulted, Romeo became very angry.
No, Romeo, behave, please.
Romeo had stimming, which, a lot of kids, if you don't know what stimming are, it's either they clap their hands or they twirl or they snap or they jitter themselves, just something that keeps the body in balance. It keeps them a little bit calmer. Romeo had a little bit where it was just more self like this. After the incident, Romeo became more aggressive. He was more hitting himself, beating himself, smacking his face, and I will include some clips of what that looks like. Romeo just was very more withdrawn. He had progressed just a little bit as far as the language, and then he de-progressed rapidly. So trauma does a lot to these kids. A lot of special advocates in the medical field will say, kids with autism don't have trauma. They don't have PTSD because PTSD symptoms fit in almost the same exact categories as autism because it is a mental disorder.
I do.
No, PTSD falls in mental disorder because of how it functions in the brain and how your brain responds to it. So, if you notice these things, keep an eye because something's going on. We are our children's mentors and advocates, and it's very unfortunate, but our kids are not in our hands 24/7, so we need to make sure that we are making sure that they're safe and they're okay, even for the ones that can't talk to us, because we are their eyes and their voices. So it's been 2.5 years now. Romeo has gone a little bit better, not much. Thank God for ABA. ABA has been a lifesaver. We've had to wait a very long time to get it, as far as many resources with autistic children, you have to wait a long time to get them, but don't lose hope because you will get there. Lots of waiting lists because there's just so many children that are in need of help. ABA has made a difference on helping Romeo be self-calm, self-soothing, what are triggering the outburst, what are contributing to more of the self-hits. You know, it's hard because once kids on the spectrum are subject to trauma and abuse, there's not really a way for them to figure out how to stop it. You can decrease it, but it just kind of just never goes away. It's always in their brain, and you know, their brain works differently than ours. And Romy has since then been on so many medications to help, and some have helped and then they stop working, and then we got to try another round. So Romy's life has been very difficult. So trauma is not something that gets overnight. It's not a common cold, you know, it's forever. You know, it stays in your brain, your memories stay in your brain. And you know, Romy's 10 now, and so he still struggles. So I just want to advocate for all those moms out there. You know, if your kid has ever been abused or assaulted, you know, try to get them help. Have patience. You know, Romeo in the last 2 years have absorbed a lot of my patience just because it's not his fault for what happened, but he is paying the price. And it's sad to say that people look at these kids as mental kids. I was told, oh, you know, Romeo has autism. It's a mental disorder. You know, what all the attributes that he has. Romeo went from breaking holes in walls, crashing the TV with his head, biting himself, 3-degree biting. You know, he had scars on his hands, peeing on his pants, and just not really kind of phasing out where you think, oh, is he epileptic or what's going on? Here are a couple pictures of Romeo with his bloody nose. He had an intense bloody nose day in and day out for months. Also, Romeo went through almost a year of biting his hands. He had 3-degree bitings, as you can see in the pictures below. Also, the holes in the walls that he would break at my mom and dad's house. Just being very destructive and very angry and very aggressive, like in a manic state. Also, Romy's intense weight gain. Romeo was always a skinny guy, and from having to put on so many med trials to keep the to keep the behavior down, Romeo gained increased amounts of weight from 64 pounds to 130 max. So it was pretty intense. This is Romeo at his 130. He wasn't comfortable in his body. He was always sick and very down. Looks like he was sad all the time. It was pretty hard to see. You know, those are all trauma. And it was so sad to see because you kept telling medical professionals, hey, this is going on and this is going on. And they're like, oh, it's autism. No, it's not autism. It is trauma, and things happen to these children, and they need to stop covering it up that it's autism. Autism is not slap a Band-Aid on it and let's just let it go. It'll write it out. It won't. It can increase, it can decrease, and it can skyrocket. It goes through episodes. You know, I just tell people, you know, trauma, it takes its effect in different people in different ways, and you have to find a way to kind of work with it, but sometimes you don't, and that's the hard part. And with Romeo is we haven't overcome the self-abuse. You know, he beats himself on a daily, and sometimes it's hard. It's hard to see. It's sad to see. I break down as a mom all the time, being like, oh, what did I do wrong? How did this happen? You know, how do I get him better? You know, I just have to be there. I just have to advocate for him. And, you know, I've had some great resources. I've had amazing social workers help me to get resources for Romeo, like ABA and therapy. And, you know, Romeo's a great artist. If you've seen in any of the other YouTube videos, Romeo loves to color. Since he got assaulted, Romeo's leaned to coloring in the tablet. And that has gave him a peace of mind, even if it's for an hour or two. Is just giving him that self-calmness, you know. And I also, which is hard, I take Romeo out everywhere. Take him in the public, you know. It's kind of as a mom, you go out there, you're like, oh, you don't see many autistic kids out in the world. Well, it's hard, you know, but I'm one of those moms is you take them out, you learn to let them adapt. You teach the public, these kids are here. They're no different. It makes the situation a lot harder, but they need to adapt to, whether it's the screaming, the stimming, the hitting. You know, I know people say, oh, you're making it worse for him. Why would you do that to him? It's trauma. Well, how is it any more trauma than what happened to Romeo? I'm trying to make his life more self-sufficient and teach him that it's okay to have a moment. It's okay to be allowed. You know, people on the norm need to understand there are people with special needs and challenges that they face every day, and it's not easy for their family. It's just as hard for the person in their body. So I just advocate this year, you know, be more aware, see what's going on with your children, love them, kiss them, hug them up. You just never know what can happen to them. And, you know, and if you are suspect, ask questions. You know, there's nothing wrong with asking questions, whether you call the school or you call their after group school or whatever. Ask questions, because it's better to ask than you didn't ask and then find out something happened like I did. You know, I tried very hard to ask questions, and sometimes you just don't get the communication at the end. And so, you know, right now my family, we have been, I wouldn't say paying the price, but we are dealing with it. You know, it's been a very long road for us. And, you know, when people keep telling us, oh, it's autism, you know, it's just part of it skyrocketing. It's not. Romy does have autism, but if you look at what Romy's autism looked like 3 years ago versus today, you'd be like, that's a whole nother child. So I just love you all, and I appreciate you guys supporting our channel and keeping up with Romy's and what's going on in our lives, and, you know, Romy's uniqueness and all his creativity. And we hope you continue watching and following through. And like I said, make a list. Keep an eye on your children. Talk to whoever's around your children. Make sure they are safe. Make sure you know who you're leaving your children with. You know, whether, like I said, Boys and Girls Club, babysitters, respite care workers, at school, wherever it may be. Make sure you know who your children are with, because they're your babies. And you don't want anything to happen to them, because you love them. Well, we love you guys, and thank you. And stay tuned for more videos. Have a wonderful day. Bye.